Emily had waited for this moment for 9 long months. The anticipation, the excitement, and the fear, all of it had culminated in the most incredible feeling she'd ever experienced. Her daughter, a tiny miracle, was now safely in her arms, wrapped snugly in a warm hospital blanket. She lay in her hospital bed, the soft hum of machinery in the background, while her husband, Daniel, sat by her side, watching her with a mix of awe and exhaustion. The labor had been difficult, but Emily had endured it all. Now as she gazed down at her newborn baby girl, her heart swelled with a love she hadn't known was possible. Before we continue, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Now cam back to the story. Her daughter was perfect. Tiny fingers curled into fists, soft tufts of dark hair peeking from under the blanket, and a delicate nose that crinkled slightly as she made little sounds in her sleep. Emily smiled as she stroked the baby's cheek, feeling the softness of her skin. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. It was just the two of them in their little world, and everything felt right. Daniel leaned over and kissed Emily's forehead before excusing himself to make a phone call to his parents. "I'll be back in just a minute," he whispered, giving her hand a squeeze. Left alone with her newborn, Emily sighed, letting the weight of the moment sink in. She had waited for this child for so long. As she looked at her daughter, tears began to fill her eyes, not of sadness, but of pure joy. She thought of her own mother, who had passed away just a year ago. Emily had always imagined her mother being there for the birth of her first child, but life had other plans, and her mother's absence left an ache in her heart that never fully healed. Emily blinked away the tears and pulled the blanket up around her baby, cradling her close. Her emotions were a whirlwind, happiness, love, and grief all mixing together. Just as she settled back into the pillows, something strange happened. She felt a small lump under the blanket, pressing against her hand. It wasn't the soft, familiar feel of the baby's body. This was different, hard, cold. A jolt of worry shot through Emily. What could it be? Her heart began to race as she carefully shifted the blanket to see what was hidden beneath. Her hand trembled as she reached under the soft fabric, her fingers grazing something unfamiliar. Fear gripped her. Was there something wrong with her baby? What could possibly be under the blanket? Slowly, she pulled the object free, holding it in her hand. When she saw what it was, her breath caught in her throat. Her fingers tightened around a small, delicate bracelet. The bracelet was old, a thin silver band with tiny etchings of flowers. It was unmistakable. This was her mother's bracelet. Emily's mind reeled. She hadn't seen this bracelet in years. Her mother had worn it every day for as long as she could remember. When her mother passed away, the bracelet had disappeared, and Emily assumed it had been lost in the shuffle of grief and funeral arrangements. How did it end up here, wrapped in the blanket with her newborn baby? Tears welled in her eyes as the reality of the situation hit her. It was as if her mother, from wherever she was, had found a way to be there in this precious moment. Emily clutched the bracelet to her chest, feeling a mix of overwhelming emotions: love, loss, and an indescribable sense of connection. As the tears streamed down her face, she couldn't stop the sobs that rose from deep within her. Her heart ached, but not from sadness. It was an ache of longing, of knowing her mother couldn't be there physically, but somehow, in this small, miraculous way, she was still watching over her. Just then, the nurse quietly entered the room, noticing Emily's tearful face and the bracelet clutched in her hand. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" the nurse asked softly, concerned. Emily wiped her eyes and tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She could only nod, her emotions too strong to put into words. The nurse walked closer and smiled knowingly when she saw the bracelet. "Your husband asked me to place it with the baby when you were resting," she said. "He found it in a box of things from your mom's house a few days ago. He thought it might bring you comfort." Emily looked down at the bracelet again, her tears falling freely now. She turned to her newborn daughter, who was still sleeping soundly in her arms, completely unaware of the profound moment her mother was experiencing. In that instant, Emily felt her mother's presence more strongly than she had in a long time. The ache in her heart began to ease, replaced by a warm sense of peace. It was as though her mother had sent a small sign to remind her that she wasn't alone, that even in death, her love had not faded. Emily gently placed the bracelet around her daughter's wrist, knowing that it would be a symbol of the bond between the generations of women in her family. She leaned down and kissed her baby's forehead, her heart full of love. When Daniel returned, he found Emily sitting in the bed, her tears now replaced with a soft, serene smile. He saw the bracelet on the baby's wrist and wrapped his arms around both of them, understanding without words what that small piece of jewelry meant. That night, as Emily held her newborn close, she knew that her mother's love would always be with her and her daughter, guiding them through every step of their journey. The strange feeling under the blanket had led to a moment of profound connection, reminding Emily that the ones we love never truly leave us. They stay with us, in our hearts and in the quiet miracles of life.